of the day that stole the day today. That is Stephanie White pretty much ditching Caitlin Clark. Yeah, she's ditching her, bro. She's ditching her in a major way. Because you want to know why? Because she's turning this team over to none other than Kelsey Mitchell.
That's Stephanie White, the head coach who was supposed to save the Indiana Fever. Straight up telling you she's building the entire offense around Kelsey Mitchell, not the rookie who just broke every attendance record in WNBA history. And if you think that's just one comment taken out of context, wait until you see what she said after last night's loss to the Aces.
I still believe Caitlin Clark is going to get the hell out of Indy after this year. That's just my own personal theory. It ain't nobody else's opinion. It ain't fact. I just want to let y'all know that. This is just what I believe. Now, let's say Caitlin Clark be a good girl for the Fever and be like, you know what, I'll run it back one more year despite how this season go. She run it back. What they going to do with Kelsey Mitchell? The whole person they didn't pretty much sacrifice 2 seasons.
There it is. The whole person they didn't pretty much sacrifice 2 seasons for. That's not speculation anymore. The Fever spent 2 full seasons tanking, positioning themselves for the Caitlin Clark draft, bringing in a coach who was supposed to maximize her, and now that same coach is on record prioritizing a different guard entirely. The question isn't whether this is happening. The question is why, and what it means for next season when the money decisions have to be made.
Mitchell gonna think she's a supermax player. Now, I'm not saying she don't deserve the supermax, but let's see how Kelsey Mitchell play for a team where she's not the primary target or the primary person that the offense is running through. Because it's clear as day it is. She down there had 30 yesterday. She's averaging over 20 points, and she's having 3 assists. She ain't passing the ball. She's chunking up shots. I think we all could agree on that. Now,
the cap situation is the part nobody's talking about yet, but it's the part that's about to blow this whole thing open. Caitlin Clark becomes eligible for a supermax extension after this season. Kelsey Mitchell is a free agent. You cannot pay both of them max money and keep this roster together. Somebody has to choose. And based on what Stephanie White just said in that locker room and at the podium, she's already made her choice. The front office might not have made theirs yet, and that's the conflict that's about to define the Fever's entire future.
Let's start it over.
All right, y'all. Great job. Great job. We did a lot of great things. I'm sure this has to be a season low 7 turnovers. Wow.
Look at her. I'm sure. And then she immediately looks at the camera. See, I had to go back and watch this to get the full understanding and context of what she's saying. She immediately looks at the camera.
You take care of the ball, you give yourself a chance, right? 13 offensive rebounds.
She bragging about 13.
Watch her body language right there. She looks at the camera immediately after talking about the turnovers. 7 turnovers is a season low, and she's celebrating that like it's the headline. But here's what she's not saying. Caitlin Clark had 2 of those turnovers. Kelsey Mitchell had 1. The rest were spread across the roster. So why is the turnover number the first thing out of her mouth when they just lost by double digits to a team they needed to beat if they're serious about playoff seeding? Because the narrative Stephanie White is building isn't about winning this game. It's about proving that the system she's installing works, even when the scoreboard says it doesn't. 13 offensive rebounds, holding the Aces to 40% shooting in the second half. Those are all real stats, and they all sound good in a vacuum. But the Fever still lost 95-83. They were never really in it after the first quarter. And the coach is in the locker room talking about moral victories like they're building towards something, when what they're actually building is a system where Kelsey Mitchell takes 22 shots a game and Caitlin Clark is running around screens trying to get open for spot-up threes.
By the third quarter down to 40, and we ended the game in the 40s. And third quarter, 26-14, we came out of the gate ready to go. Okay, all of that matters. All of that matters. We were resilient early in the first quarter, and then we continued to climb throughout the rest of the game. Okay, really proud of you guys. That's a great win. It's a great effort. All right.
Really proud of you guys. That's a great effort. That's the kind of thing you say when you're tanking and you want to keep morale up, or when you're genuinely overmatched and you need to find positives in the loss. The Fever aren't tanking anymore. They have the most popular player in women's basketball. They're selling out arenas on the road. and they're still getting coached like a team that's happy to compete and lose respectably. That's the disconnect, and it's why this is starting to feel like a structural problem, not just a rough season.
If you guys don't know, last time they played the Las Vegas Aces, Kelsey Mitchell was being carried off the court. Aaliyah Boston fouled out in that game. The ref was just on some fuck stuff, I should say. And it was just an ugly, ugly game for them.
Context matters here. The last time these two teams played, Kelsey Mitchell got hurt on a dirty play by Derica Hamby, and the Fever lost their minds. The refs didn't call it. Stephanie White went off in the press conference. The team rallied around Mitchell like she was the one holding the whole thing together. And maybe in that moment, she was. But that was weeks ago, and the pattern since then has been the same. Kelsey Mitchell is the first option, Caitlin Clark is the second option at best, and the offense runs through isolation ball instead of the pace and space system that was supposed to unlock this roster. The Aces are the defending champs. Nobody expected the Fever to win this game. But the way they lost matters, because it's the same way they've been losing all season when they face elite competition. They slow the game down, they try to grind it out in the half-court, and they let their best playmakers stand in the corner while a volume scorer goes one-on-one against a set defense. That works sometimes against bad teams. It doesn't work against Aja Wilson and the Aces, and it's not going to work in the playoffs if they even make it that far. There's the press conference. She's about to say something that should concern every Fever fan who thought this coaching change was going to fix the dysfunction. Because what Stephanie White says here isn't just about last night's game. It's about how she sees this team's identity going forward, and who she sees as the centerpiece of that identity. And if you're expecting her to talk about Caitlin Clark as the franchise player, you're about to be disappointed. Relationships, family, prisoners. That audio's garbled, but the tone isn't. She's talking about the locker room culture, about who's bought in and who's part of the core. And everything we've seen this season suggests that Kelsey Mitchell is at the center of that core, not the rookie who's leading the league in assists and dragging this team to relevance whether the coaching staff wants to admit it or not.
30 yesterday. She's averaging over 20 points, and she's having 3 assists. She ain't passing the ball. She's chunking up shots. I think we all could agree on that. Now,
Kelsey Mitchell dropped 30 points last night. She's averaging over 20 for the season, and she's averaging 3 assists. 3. For a starting guard who's handling the ball as much as she is, that's not a playmaker. That's a scorer who happens to play the guard position. And the problem isn't that Kelsey Mitchell is a bad player. She's not. The problem is that you cannot build a championship offense around a guard who doesn't pass, especially when you have another guard on the roster who's one of the best passers in the league and who's proven she can run an offense at the highest level. But Stephanie White has decided that Kelsey Mitchell is the one. She's said it in the locker room. She's shown it with the play calls. And now the front office has to decide whether they're going to back their coach or back their investment. Because next year, when Caitlin Clark is eligible for the Supermax and Kelsey Mitchell is a free agent, somebody's going to have to make a choice that defines the next 5 years of this franchise.
I believe Caitlin Clark is eligible for the Supermax or a max next year. Now, I still believe Caitlin Clark is going to get the hell out of Indy after this year. That's just my own personal theory. It ain't nobody else's opinion. It ain't fact. I just want to let y'all know that. This is just what I believe.
The cap situation is brutal, and it's coming faster than people realize. If Caitlin Clark signs a Supermax extension, that's going to eat up a massive chunk of the Fever's payroll. If Kelsey Mitchell gets offered a max deal by another team, the Fever either match it and gut the rest of the roster, or they let her walk and admit that the last 2 years of building around her were a waste. And if Stephanie White has already decided that Kelsey Mitchell is her franchise player, and the front office decides they'd rather keep Caitlin Clark, then you've got a coach and a front office working toward completely different goals. That's how you end up with a disaster season. And that's how you lose a generational talent because the organization couldn't get on the same page.
I still believe Caitlin Clark is going to get the hell out of Indy after this year. That's just my own personal theory. That ain't nobody.
He's right. If Caitlin Clark decides she's had enough of this and wants out after next season, the Fever have nobody to blame but themselves. And the crazy part is, she'd have leverage. She's the reason the Fever went from playing in front of 4,000 people to selling out 17,000-seat arenas. She's the reason the WNBA signed a new TV deal worth exponentially more than the last one. If she wanted to force a trade, she could, and the league would bend over backward to make it happen because she's the biggest draw the sport has ever had. But let's say she doesn't. Let's say Caitlin Clark is a good soldier, signs the extension, and runs it back for another year. What happens to Kelsey Mitchell? Does Stephanie White really want to let her walk after spending 2 full seasons building the offense around her? Or does she convince the front office to pay both of them and sacrifice depth everywhere else? Because that's the choice. You can't have both at max money and still field a competitive roster around them. The WNBA salary cap doesn't work that way.
Matter. We out-rebounded them 39-30. Really good stuff. First quarter, y'all, they shot 62%. By the second quarter, we had them down to 45. By the third quarter, down to 40. And we ended the game in the 40s. And third quarter, 26-14. We came out of the gate ready to go. Okay, all of that matters. All of that matters. We were resilient early in the first quarter, and then we continued to climb throughout the rest.
Listen to what she's celebrating. Third quarter defense, rebounding, effort stats. All of that matters, sure, but none of it matters as much as the final score. And the final score was a blowout loss to a team the Fever are supposedly trying to compete with. This is the same energy you get from a coach who's trying to protect her players and keep them confident, which is fine. But at some point, you have to actually win the games that matter. And this one mattered, because it was a chance to prove that the Fever can hang with the elite teams in the league, and they couldn't. The Aces shot 62% in the first quarter. By the end of the game, the Fever had them down to 40%. That's good defense. But the Fever also got outscored 26-14 in the third quarter, which means they gave up a run that put the game out of reach, and they never recovered. So which stat matters more? The one that sounds good in the press conference, or the one that shows up on the scoreboard?
So that was the press conference, man. I want to know y'all thoughts down in the comments section right now. Be sure to make sure you guys keep your bells on. I will be coming back with more content.
And that's where she leaves it. No accountability for the loss. No acknowledgement that the offensive system isn't working. Just a reminder to keep your head up and shake off the haters, which is fine advice for social media, but not exactly a winning strategy when you're trying to build a playoff team. So where does this leave the Fever? They've got a coach who's committed to building around the wrong player. They've got a front office that's about to have to make a financial decision that could define the franchise for the next decade. And they've got the most popular player in women's basketball, who's watching all of this happen in real time and probably wondering if she made the right choice by staying in Indiana instead of forcing her way to a team that actually knows how to use her. The Fever are 15-18 right now. They're in the playoff picture, barely, but they're not a threat to anyone once they get there. And the reason they're not a threat is because they're being coached like a team that's still trying to figure out its identity, when the identity should be obvious. You have Caitlin Clark. You build around Caitlin Clark. You let her run the offense. You surround her with shooters and defenders, and you get out of the way. That's how you win in this league. That's how you maximize a generational talent. But Stephanie White has a different plan. And unless something changes fast, that plan is going to cost the Fever everything they've spent the last 2 years building toward. The question now is whether the front office steps in and forces a change, or whether they let the coach run the show and hope it works out. Because if it doesn't, Caitlin Clark is going to be playing somewhere else in 2 years, and the Fever are going to be right back where they started, irrelevant, losing, and wondering what went wrong. So what do you think? Is Stephanie White making the right call by building around Kelsey Mitchell? Or is this the biggest coaching mistake in recent WNBA history? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit the like button if you want to see more breakdowns like this, and subscribe if you haven't already, because this story is just getting started. I'll see you in the next one.